This is the Mokka X, a compact SUV that sits right in the middle of Vauxhall's expanding SUV range, alongside the smaller Crossland X and the larger Grandland X. Cars like the Mokka basically have the dimensions of a small hatchback with a higher roofline, which gives extra space and added practicality, always appealing to family buyers, and they've proved to be a huge hit. Now, the Mokka has been a huge success for Vauxhall, but of course they're not the only ones hoping to cash in on this fast-growing corner of the market. And this car faces stiff competition from cars like the Fiat 500X, the Renault Captur, and of course the Nissan Juke. So how does this updated version compare? Its looks have always been a strong point with buyers, and on the outside there are a few changes to its design, giving it a new, slightly bolder look. But the really big changes are to be found in here, where the interior is a vast improvement over the previous model. It's basically very similar to that of the Vauxhall Astra, which we think is a good thing. Everything is housed around this sort of central infotainment system, and the general quality feels really good, and it feels very well built and put together. I have a slight gripe about some of the plastics that are used, just down here at the bottom and in the centre. I think they let things down slightly. And also I think the cubby holes could be a little bit more generous as well. The door bins are really small and quite mean. Glove box, well, that's not too big either, although you do get a couple of useful storage compartments here in the centre and also down here at the front, which is a great place for keeping your mobile phone out of the way whilst you're driving. It's also home though to the power outlets, and I think they're in a bit of a difficult position. It's a bit fiddly to plug things in and out, particularly if you've got larger hands. While I'd also say that the handbrake isn't in an ideal position either, and it just feels a bit awkward. But if there is one thing to say about the Mokka, it's that it is very well equipped. All cars are fitted with a touchscreen which features Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Essentially, the infotainment system is an extension of your smartphone, which allows you to access sat-nav without upgrading to a more expensive spec. Other standard equipment highlights include cruise control, air conditioning, automatic lights and wipers, and LED running lights. Upgrade to design nav trim for sat-nav, while elite models have heated leather sport seats, tinted rear windows and cup holders in the rear armrest. So here in the back, well, the raised ride height definitely makes it easier to lift young children in and out, which is a really big plus point. However, I just feel like these doors just need to open a little bit further. They just don't seem to go far enough. As for passenger room back here, well, I think you're okay for legroom. Headroom is fine too. Look, it's going to be cosy if you have 3 adults in the back here for long. But if you're my height, 5'4", or you're travelling with children, then it's absolutely fine. Vauxhall's engineers and designers have done a good job of maximising headroom, but because it's a small car, there's only so much they can do. And at the back, well, the Mokka X's boot is average size and sits quite high in the car, so you have to hike things up a little when you're loading. But there are split folding rear seats, and they do lie nice and flat when they're dropped, and there's only a small boot lip to lift things over. Of course, it's to be expected that the amount of interior space is limited. After all, the appeal of cars like this over a full-sized SUV is that they're still small enough to be driven easily around town. Unfortunately, this is where the Mokka doesn't live up to expectations. You know, look, it isn't as good to drive as some of its rivals, like the Mazda CX-3, for example, and equally it is better than others. So, where to start with all that? Well, I find the steering just way too light. You really don't get a good feel for what the wheels are doing. And the foot pedals are in a slightly strange position. It gives the clutch a really high and very uncomfortable biting point. You know, it's fine for longer journeys, but it becomes really annoying when you're changing gear frequently around town. And it isn't helped by the fact that this 6-speed manual gearbox is slightly notchy too. Unfortunately, the automatic gearbox isn't too impressive either, as that takes its time to change gear. Sadly, my criticisms don't end there, because it rolls quite heavily when you go into corners and also picks up an awful lot of noise from the road. Add all that together and it just doesn't make for a relaxing drive, and that overall is what this car should absolutely be. As for the engines, well, there's a choice of 5, 3 petrols and a couple of diesels. Our pick of the bunch are this 150 brake horsepower 1.4 litre petrol engine, which offers the best performance out of the three on offer, and it's been delivering just under 40 miles to the gallon. From the diesels, the 134 brake horsepower 1.6 litre diesel offers a good blend of economy and power. The Mokka X does have an advantage over some of its rivals though, the option of four-wheel drive. It isn't going to help you if the going gets really tough, but it's useful if you live in a rural area or intend to tow a small boat or a trailer. Safety is one area where the Mokka excels, and the original car received a full 5-star crash test rating from independent experts Euro NCAP, providing excellent protection for adults and child occupants, and picking up a 100% score for its safety assistance technology. Overall, the Mokka isn't a car that you're going to regret buying, but we feel that it falls short on inspiration against some increasingly talented rivals. But if you like the idea of a small SUV and want a little more style, check out our review of the Renault Capture, or watch our SUV playlist. Click the logo to subscribe, and don't forget to follow us on social media and sign up for the newsletter.